earlier today, like around noonish, 12:30ish. I don't remember the exact time. I was walking on campus of my school, and there was these group of organizations displaying advertisements for their organization. You know how every university, every college has student organizations. Some of these organizations were like Jewish Jewish students organizations, the College Republicans, the English Honor Society, and so on, like all these student ones. The one that stood out to me was this one called the Secular Students Alliance organization, which is basically an atheist organization. And it stood out because it's the only atheist, secular, humanist oriented student organization on at my campus, on my school. Because there's a lot of Christian organizations. There's a couple of Asians. I think there's like one or two Jewish. I think there's a Muslim one. I don't know off the top of my head. I have to look it up. This group in particular, is the only atheist, secular, humanist oriented student organization on campus. So I was interested, so I decided to go take a look. Obviously, I strongly disagree, but with their views. But I was interested in what they had to say. So I go to the booth. I look at what they were advertising and like their brochures and all that stuff. To take a look at it. I didn't say anything. He just asked me how it was. The two guys who were behind the booth were like being nice and be all friends. Like, okay, how's your day? How you doing? I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm just looking. I did not tell him I was a theist. I did not tell him that. I just kept my mouth shut. So I just kept looking at the brochures and all this stuff, thinking to myself, do they really believe this? Part of me just still baffles me to no end that these people would start an organization based on a so-called lack of belief, as they called it, or non-belief in theism. It just baffles me for some reason, and kind of ironic in a way. It's because like a lot of these people are even the guy behind the booth was saying that they're against organized religion and they're just fighting against dogma, you know, which is kind of I'll get to that in a later video. Anyway, I'm still at the booth, and a Jewish guy comes up to them, and the Jewish guy and the atheist guy were arguing with each other, and they were talking about like the typical atheist argument against religion is that, oh, religion causes all wars and it causes so much bad things to happen. And I just sat there, I just stood there and kept my mouth shut. I just watched them just argue about how like, oh, it's not religion or it's religion, or, you know, like boop 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 boop, you know. So it's like, so I was just standing there, and this Jewish guy and the atheist guy were still arguing. All these thoughts were going through my mind, and I was like, because obviously I'm not Jewish, but I was agreeing with the Jewish guy, but on his points, you know, because like, then the thing that was the idea that the atheist guy brought up the idea of moral relativism, which anyone who knows me knows that I think relativism is bullshit. Excuse my language, but that's my opinion. Okay, so. He mentions it, and I looked at my phone to tell me the time, and it told me that it was time to go to class, and I just made the general comment that moral relativism is self-refuting, and I just left, not staying for a conversation because I had to go to a class. Okay, but that booth was on my mind pretty much almost all day, because it brings me back to the idea of atheists, secular humanists, agnostics, so-called free thinkers starting an organization critiquing organized religion or advocating a so-called non-belief. Okay. The reason why I find the idea of an atheist organization or a secular humanist or secular student alliance organization, or sorry, I'm rambling right now. I'm not. This is not scripted. The idea of an atheist-oriented college group is, in my opinion, ironic because these are people who claim to be all about science, reason, rationality, and they're all about trying to like escape dogma, escape irrationality, escape all this stuff, and not start any creeds and not start any like groups against like organized religion, against like groups of so-called rational thinking people. Yet it's ironic because like they're it's like they're becoming this very same thing that they're fighting against. It's really odd to me. It's don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to start a group based on shared common ground, but the way I see it, if you're gonna start sharing belief, starting a group based on a shared common belief, you should at least recognize like you're borrowing some of the same aspects of what you're criticizing. You know? Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here we are at their website. So we're just gonna check it out. So see, yeah, they're just another typical like atheist college group. Now here's what tells us what it's all about and how they run things. Here's a frequently asked questions and all this stuff. You know, they seem like a typical another organization. Okay, let's take a look at this one. And here's the so-called lack of belief in God. Let's take a look at a couple of these. Which one to look at? Okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay, so starting a new group. Well, many atheists have criticized the usage of creeds and saying we shouldn't have dogma, but isn't having all these like having these statements of what human is how is it no different from having a creed or having some sort of like dogma within the idea of an atheist worldview or something? How is that any different? I'm not. Then they have mission values and core values. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is bad. I just find it ironic, you know, that the very people who oppose religion, who are against dogma, and I put that in quotation marks, who are against creeds and organized religion, are pretty much starting organizations themselves. You know, it's like if you're gonna oppose like organized religion, then why would you ironically start organizations just like organized religion? You know, don't even get me started on the radical militant atheists on this. No, I'm not saying this group is militant atheists. Don't get me wrong. It's just to me ironic. Well, another thing I wanted to point out is that this group is very advocate on the uses of skepticism and how we need to think for ourselves, which, don't get me wrong, is a good thing. But what if you end up thinking for yourself, but you're still a theist? I don't know. It's just maybe it's just me, but I think the idea of having an atheist organization dedicated to the usage of skepticism, secular humanism is ironic because of the way they're like criticizing and opposing organized religions. Yet, yeah, don't now. I understand that they claim to want to promote religious freedom and all that stuff and blah 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 blah. But anyone who knows me and has any experience with militant atheists or atheists in general, you would know that despite wanting to promote religious freedom, they hate. There are many of them who can't stand religion and want it to be eradicated from the planet. So, now I'm not saying this group is one of them, but talking about I'm just talking about the idea of an atheist group, especially an atheist college group, is the idea of being in an organized group the same way as an organized religion is to me ironic, especially if they're promoting skepticism. Because just because you don't have to be an atheist to be a skeptic. Being a skeptic doesn't mean accepting every argument that agrees with your worldview. Like, for example, I may be a theist, but that doesn't mean I accept every argument for God's existence. Like, for example, off the top of my head, I can think of, I flat out reject tag. I think it's one of the worst arguments on the planet. You know what I'm saying? But that's for another time. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this. If anyone disagrees, that's fine. It just this I'm just saying I think the idea of atheists wanting to start organizations like this promoting so-called free thinking skepticism I take it back. Starting the whole idea of an atheist organizations when they oppose so-called dogma of religion it's ironic and just becoming what they are opposing. That's my thoughts. Thank you for watching.